Hi, and welcome to this follow-up video for yesterday's episode. We created a bug in our application, and that's due to a missing test case. So we were testing to see if you try and install on a non-empty tile, and that should fail. What we were testing is whether if you have an occupied location and you want to install an object there, that if the location and where to install and the occupied location exactly match, then the installation fails. But we also said that objects can be of arbitrary size. So what if a larger sizes overlap, like in this example, where we have an installed object that's a bit larger, and we want to install another object, the orange object, in a slightly different position but with an overlapping tile. The current test doesn't test for that, and I also don't think our code is looking at that situation. So what we need is an additional test case, and that's what we're going to write now. We will also most likely have a test that fails at first because we're not checking yet to see if if overlapping of larger objects is implemented. So let's see. So we have our install object in non-empty tile fails test. Let's add another test called test install object in non-empty tile for overlapping larger objects fails. This requires some setup, and this also requires our object to have allowed tiles of type avoid. Also, I think this test requires that as well. And then we need to make sure that the size is larger than 1. Let's make it 3 wide and 2 high. And we'll try and install this object at position 0. Then we also need to make sure that we have an object we can overlap with. So we create a new object with a name pre-existing object. And this one too will be larger than 1 by 1, so we'll create a vector 3 wide and 2 high. And let's position this one at 2 by 1. So then we have exactly one overlapping tile. Then we push the job on the entities job stack. We make sure that our inventory has an object to install, and we update the entity in our world. And then we can start doing some assertions. So the first assertion will be that the installation fails. And we check this by looking if now an object exists at position 0, because that's where we were going to install the object. And the second one we're going to test is to see if the object at this position is still the pre-existing object. So let's copy paste this. We need a name or a default value, and we need to make sure that it matches this one. We don't need accuracy here. And finally, let's test that we still have our object to install in our inventory. So our inventory should have an object item. We should still have one. So let's try and run this test, and I expect the test to fail. So it's building correctly. and the test fails because we actually have an object at this location now, and also we consumed the item in our inventory. And the reason for that is because if we go into our entity where we're checking for the no object, we're only checking for the install position. We're not checking for the entire size of the object we're trying to install. So how can we solve that? Well, I think the most logical place would be if we check now for no object, but what if we add to no object a size? And then use the size passed in our entity to see if for all the locations there is any form of overlap. So, sorry. Let's see. So, we get our size here, and then let's go for x in job.targetPosition.x up until job.targetPosition.x plus price.x, and then for the y, and then we check if at this position x and y there exists an object, and if it does, we return false. So let's try and run the test again. So let's run our test. And we should add the size here as well. And the size we can use is the object.size. That's what we can pass in the requirement. Let's see if the test now succeeds. Our test still fails. So we should look into our code a bit better. So let's go back a bit and go into our entity. And here we're checking if the object exists. So let's run until there and go in here and go in here. So let's see what's happening. So we're checking our object position x 0, 0 up to object position x plus the size of x, and we're checking if that contains the position. That's typo here. You should check for, of course, whether position x is part of that range, just like it's y here. So let's see if this, hopefully this simple typo was the problem. Let's go back to our test. Let's rerun the test. And now the test passes. So it seems to be working. So we also changed this test. And on the empty tile test, this one works. And let's run all the tests. And they all pass. So I think we now also have this case under control correctly. Next time, really, we're going to visualize objects. Thanks for watching and have a good day.